Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Today we're talking about Scarface. We're going to talk about the history of it. Before we do that, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe down below. And let's go ahead and get started. Scarface, starring Al Pacino, came out in 1983, and it was a remake of the 1932 Scarface. Scarface was directed by Brian De Palma, with a script written by Oliver Stone, and it stars Al Pacino and Michelle Pfeiffer. Before we go ahead and talk about the history of Scarface, the plot is very simple for if you haven't seen the movie. A determined Cuban immigrant takes over a drug cartel and succumbs to greed. Pretty simple plot, and they execute it beautifully. Despite the title of the movie, Tony Montana is only called Scarface one time in the movie. This film was the first movie to have over 200 F-bombs. The film shot for 24 weeks from November 1982 to May 1983. Oliver Stone, who wrote the script, named Tony Montana after his favorite football player, Joe Montana. So in the movie, the whole premise of the movie takes place in Miami, Florida. But it wasn't even shot in Miami. It was all shot in LA. There was protests going on in Miami over the subject matter, and Universal and the crew thought that it'd be too dangerous to shoot there. If I wouldn't have researched this film, I wouldn't have even known the difference, because they did a really good job of displaying Miami. I live in Florida, I've been to Miami, and the film, I wasn't around in the 80s obviously, but the film depicts what Miami looks like. To help Al Pacino stay in character, he asked the director of photography to only talk to him in Spanish. This next one coming up was probably my favorite thing that I found about looking in the history and trivia of Scarface. So we all know that Scarface is heavily rated R for subject matter, language, nudity, all that stuff. But to get an R rating, or to get any rating, you gotta submit your film to the MPAA before it comes out so that they can determine what the rating is. Well, director Brian De Palma had to submit that rating 3 times because each time it came back, they gave it an X rating. So the director kept doing different cuts every time the MPAA would send back that X rating to try and get it down to an R. Months after the home release of Scarface, director Brian De Palma disclosed that he actually went behind the back of the MPAA and he actually submitted the first cut that was given an X rating to the theaters, and that's what was seen in theaters, and he went behind the back of the MPAA to do that. Steven Spielberg is one of the all-time greats. I think personally, in my opinion, he is the greatest director, but everyone else has their own opinion. His work of film is so vast and diverse, it's crazy. So crazy that I didn't even know that he had a hand in helping Scarface make it to the screen. He was invited on set by director Brian De Palma, and Steven Spielberg helped shoot the final shootout scene in Tony's mansion at the end of the movie. What is the future of Scarface? Well, in 2011, Universal Pictures announced that they would be developing a new version of Scarface. Since 2011, it's gone through 3 different directors and multiple screenwriters. But there is hope, because it was announced in May of this year that director Luca Guadagnino, I totally botched that, signed on to direct the film. That's going to do it for the history of Scarface. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.